Okay, so we are going to begin our community meeting tonight, and this one, welcome Antelope Valley to your first local community COVID-19 update and other updates pertinent to Antelope Valley, which will include one of our staff, Garrett, who's very familiar with the community. So we thought we'd add a little bit of that as well. And what I'd like to do is first thank everybody for the enormous amount of effort that people are putting in to stay home, stay safe, stay 6 feet away. And now we're transitioning into more of a PPE, face mask wearing kind of world. And it's really all for the common purpose of getting through this pandemic safely together with as few people getting sick as possible. But as our health officer, Dr. Boo, continuously reminds us, everybody should be acting as if somebody that they're having contact with or somebody that's in a space that they're in potentially could be carrying, whether they have symptoms or not. I really want to thank everybody who's participating, from locally to the county. These are very long days, lots of different topics that occur throughout the days, and try to do this meeting to bring a little bit more local opportunity for localized questions, which I would encourage you to type in. If you scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a Q&A option. Just type in your questions. They're going to be answered the best that we can answer them. And we have a lot of experts here that are going to be participating to do that. And, you know, I wanted to call out some of the community efforts that are occurring in Antelope Valley, specifically the general store, who Debbie Bush is on this to answer some questions too. She's representing the chamber and the RPAC. But there's been an amazing home delivery, curbside service. There was a fresh produce day and prescription pickup, all kinds of stuff. And Pat Espinoza, who has not missed a beat with getting the Meals on Wheels to the seniors, now that congregate meals, lunches are not possible. So we believe that through the leadership of social services and Kathy Peterson through our community support branch, that the needs of everyone that we can possibly identify for food and other resources are being met or will continue to be met as new ones arise. So really want to thank everybody for that. Also, our first responders, they are all on the front lines, as are the hospital workers, the essential services people. We have a restaurant that's still open in Walker and following all the rules, and it just, everybody, you know, you got to just remember that we're all in this together to try to get back to economic recovery and invite back everybody to Mono County. So on that note, today was a Fish and Game Commission meeting where there was, because I know there'll be questions about this, so I'm trying to cover a couple of these topics in the brief. There was a decision made by the Fish and Game Commission, unanimous, to give delegated authority to the Director of California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Chuck Bonham, to have the authority to pause or reopen a season of fishing in a county that was requesting that due to the lack of resources to handle the influx of people that would be coming with a fishing season opening. And we also had comments on that call from our Sheriff Braun, our chair of the board, Stacy Corliss, and the sheriff of Inyo County, Jeff Hollowell. And all with the common theme that we just, at this point in time, can't allow for our base population to have the potential for interacting with such a large group of people with what opening a fishing would bring. So it's a tough decision to make, and you know, the ultimate, you know, kind of outcome, which is, you know, our county council is going to come out with a a more precise statement on would be if locals could just fish. And I don't know how that would actually occur. It doesn't seem that it, within the framework of the California Constitution and the lawyers, that kind of thing could happen, but it's still being discussed. I just don't think people should really get their hopes up for that. But a couple of weeks, a few weeks of delay is likely what will happen. And that still has not been decided. It has to come out of California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Now, there was a question of Topaz Lake. Topaz Lake is in Nevada and California, and that has its own season. So that is not part of the delaying of trout season in Mono County. As far as economic recovery goes, the SBA loans, I've been learning today that PPP and SBA loans have been funded and are in bank accounts in Mono County. I know of at least one specifically in Bridgeport. So that system is working. And if you need more information about that, Jeff Simpson, our Economic Development Department, are happy to help or direct you to resources. So I was only supposed to go for 5 minutes, and I think I'm at 9. So I wanted to introduce to you our panel for tonight. So we have Brian Wheeler, who is with Mono County Public Health. He has been a constant presence at the community meetings and always available to answer questions and a great resource. Frank Freefault, he's the EOC director, and he is, again, I'll ditto the same with him, except he is, when he's not an EOC director, he is the fire chief in Mammoth, and he's been working tirelessly to help guide us through this whole pandemic. Chris McCrasick, our EMS chief, Bob Lawton, who is our Mono County acting CAO, relatively new to the county, but has been also working very hard, as everybody really has, no matter if it's working hard to stay home on the couch or being at the office every day and dealing with 5 elected officials and a whole slew of departments that still are functioning. Our county government is continuing to provide all the services that we normally do, but and also with the heavy lift of the COVID pandemic. Robin Roberts, who has done an awesome job of having a great presence on Facebook and reaching out from our behavioral health department, and her staff have been great. And I'm trying to find Cassandra. She's on the call, but I forget your last name, Cassandra, but she can introduce herself. Montez. So she is working with behavioral health, and she is our Spanish speaking outreach kind of, I don't know, I'm going to call her coordinator, because that's kind of what she's doing tonight. She's helping for us to get the message out to the Spanish speaking Latino community. Then we have Garrett Heigard from Mono County Public Works, and also Jeff Simpson from Mono County Economic Development. So please start typing your questions in, because after we have a few brief updates from public health and various people on the call or on the Zoom, we want to answer your questions. So from there, I'll turn it back over to Brian.
Thank you, Supervisor Peters, and thank you for having us here tonight. Before we begin our updates, our program updates, I'd like to ask Cassandra Montez to address the Latino-speaking population. Cassandra, are you there?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everyone. All right, well, those who do not know me, my name is Cassandra Montez. I am leading the Latino Outreach Committee to inform the Spanish-speaking community on the latest information on COVID-19. Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Cassandra Montes. Dirijo el Comité de Extensión Latina para informar a la comunidad hispana sobre la información más reciente sobre COVID-19 en nuestro condado de Mono. Our Latino community of Mono hosts weekly Spanish virtual community meeting on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Nuestro Comité Latino del Condado Mono organiza una reunión semanal virtual en español por los jueves a las 6:30 de la tarde a través de Zoom. This meeting is to provide the Spanish-speaking community with resources that can help during this pandemic. Esta reunión es para proporcionar a la comunidad hispana del condado con recursos que ayuden a ayudar durante esta pandemia. In this meeting, there is giving time to the participants who are listening where they can ask questions regarding the county's stay-at-home orders, how to take precautions outside of home, and other COVID-19 related questions. En esta reunión se da tiempo a los participantes que estén escuchando donde pueden hacer preguntas con respecto a las órdenes de quedarse en casa del condado, como tomar precauciones fuera del lugar y otras preguntas relacionadas al COVID-19. For the latest update information on COVID-19 for the Latino community in Spanish, please visit our website, coronavirusmonocounty.ca.gov, or visit our homepage, on Facebook, Mono County Health. Both of these pages include the date and time when we will be hosting the Latino Community Outreach page. Para obtener la información en español sobre el COVID-19, por favor visite coronavirus.monocounty.ca.gov o visítenos en nuestra página de Facebook, Mono County Health. Ambas páginas incluyen la fecha y hora que seremos anfitriones de una reunión comunitaria. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Cassandra. Before I begin the public health updates, I'd like to ask Robin Roberts to briefly speak to us. Robin, are you available?
Yeah, what would you like me to speak to you about?
Behavioral health and...
Sure. So my name's Robin, and I'm really glad that you're all here. These forums allow us to all talk to you about what we do for Mono County and what we have available to you. I've also been asked to talk about HIPAA. Is that what you want me to talk about a little bit, Brian?
You can if you'd like to, or if not, I'll cover HIPAA either way.
Okay. So I think what Mono County Behavioral Health has to offer in all of Mono County are services for you. We can do them now via the intranet. We have psychiatry, we have psychotherapy, we have substance use services. We also do all of your DUI and mandated services, etc. But what we're also doing right now is we have a warm line for people who are feeling like they need support, or they feel anxious, or they want help with how to school their kids, or whatever's going on, because we know that this is a really hard time for people, that we're all kind of fed up with the whole thing. You can call our number at 760-924-1740. And at that number, you will get connected to a person 7 days a week from 7 in the morning until 7 p.m. We have someone available who speaks Spanish and also someone who speaks English. We can connect you with services, or we can just talk you through anxiety or give you some ideas about how to stay in place. And if you are an essential worker, to connect you with resources. So thank you. Please call us.
Thank you, Robin. So I'm going to proceed with the public health updates. Just to give you some brief updates, currently we still have only 23 cases in the county, no new cases today. And the last time we had cases was Sunday, and then the last time we had cases, positive cases before that, was actually a week further back. I do want to tell you that we too have a nurse hotline, and that hotline is through the 211. If you dial 211, you can actually speak to a live nurse, and that's 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if you have questions about testing, or just want information, or feel like you have symptoms and want to get checked out, you can certainly call us. We can refer you for testing. And since this crowd is up there in the North County, we will refer you to somewhere we have a clinic in Gardnerville that we refer to for North County. And it is both English and Spanish speaking. And let's see. And that's pretty much it on the hotline. I do want to address a couple other things. I want to just thank everyone in the county for, following the social distancing guidelines that put out there. You've made a big difference in limiting the amount of cases we've seen so far. We're definitely not out of the woods. This is not over, but we're in a better place than we were, I believe, a couple weeks back. So I just wanted to thank the community for that. I also was asked to address HIPAA and the regions in Mono County and the implication of HIPAA. So HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. I know it's a big mouthful. It's basically a federal law that prevents disclosure of personal information or identifiable information to the public. So why I bring that up is because this is why we are somewhat limited on the information we can provide about cases. We cannot provide data that would help to identify someone. And that's easier in a larger county. If we were in Los Angeles and we put out a statement that said a 40-year-old male tested positive, well, you know how many 40-year-old males there are in Los Angeles, a fairly large amount. It would be almost impossible to identify. But when you talk about small towns, it's much easier. When you're talking about towns with populations of 200 people or less, any information is almost identifiable. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then I was asked to also discuss the way the regions are divided in county for the way we're reporting. So North County and Central County consist of Bridgeport, Walker, Colville, Antelope Valley, Topaz, Lee Vining, and June Lake. Southern and Eastern counties include Paradise, Sunny Slope, Tom's Place, Benton, Chalfont, and the Hamel Valley. And then our third region is Mammoth Lakes area, which includes Mammoth Lakes and Crowley Lake. So if there are no questions on the public health update, I will turn it over to Frank Freeball to give the EOC update. Frank, are you there?
I am here, but I would have to unmute. You'd think.
I know that problem well.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So first, just a quick description of how the EOC operates and how it's structured. Despite what a lot of people may think, while I serve as the EOC director, I actually answer to 3 people who serve in what's called unified command. It's based on the nature of the incident. And those 3 commanders are, first and foremost, the public health official, obviously, because this is a health emergency. And that's Dr. Boo. And then also the chief executive officers for the county, Bob Lawton, and for the town of Mammoth Lakes, Dan Holler. Those 3 individuals set the strategic goals and outcomes that they want to see occur. And then it's my job with the rest of the EOC staff, which is pulled together from, there's a heavy Mono County influence there, lots of people from the county and also from the town. So those folks and I get busy and try to make those unified command goals and outcomes come to pass. And consistent with that, I'll just kind of read through these. There are 4 standing strategic goals that those incident commanders came up with originally, and they recently added a 5th. So just let me cover these. These are the standing strategic goals through which we filter all the other activities. The first one is to provide for public response and workforce safety. That's all of you. Mitigate the speed of the COVID-19 spread. As you all know, there was not a way for us to stop this going through the community and the world, in fact, but we did want to slow it down so that it doesn't overwhelm our healthcare capability. Number 3, we're going to deliver timely, accurate, and transparent information about COVID-19 spread and how it is being managed. You can go on to the COVID-19 website, on the county website, and scroll down until you see how we're managing the emergency And what you'll see is a daily incident action plan there that explains exactly what we're doing for that day. So you can go and check in and see what's happening each day if you care to. The fourth one is that we want to mitigate phobia and fear with facts. There's no shortage of reasons to be fearful. It's a virus. People get ill, and we know, unfortunately, they also die from it. But there's also a bunch of unnecessary fear out there, and wherever we can, we want to counteract that with facts. And our Joint Information Center, all the people work on the PIO side, Stuart Brown, Justin Caparuso, and a whole host of others, I think are doing a great job with that. We recently added a fifth goal, which I think everybody would be interested in now that we're there. Conduct economic recovery based on epidemiological risk such that future infection rates do not require public health mitigation, which would halt or reverse economic recovery. I know that's a mouthful, but the short version is we want to manage this next phase of the incident so that we can come back to normal as fast as possible, but not so fast that we have to end up right back where we're trying to get away from. As far as the community resources go, there are a whole slew of those. You can go onto the website. There's a number of links there. And I see I've got a queue here to let Bob Lawton weigh in. So I'm gonna step back here and let Bob start addressing some of these community resources that are available.
Hey, thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. And I do want to remind folks that Mono County government serves all of its residents everywhere. We, you, me, all of our neighbors, we live in communities. Some of them are formal and official, and others are more like big neighborhoods. It's within communities like Antelope Valley where our greatest strength lies. We look out for each other. We are willing to rely on each other. And at times like this is when we are at our best and at our strongest. Now, your county government assists families in need through a variety of mechanisms and programs. And even in normal times, community needs can exceed the scope of those programs. In a crisis like this, organizations, volunteer organizations like IMACA, the Inyo Mono Advocates for Community Action, they help step in. The County Emergency Management Center that Frank leads, they help find and direct resources. But perhaps most important are the acts of compassion and kindness and care that we as individuals provide for other members of our communities. There are ample opportunities to serve, whether you are in a formal organization or you're just looking out for somebody that you haven't seen for a while, or volunteer to leave groceries that you picked up at the store out at somebody's porch or somebody's house. It doesn't need to be a major thing. Reach out, make a phone call to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, whether they live in Chalfont or they live in Antelope Valley or they live in June Lake. Stay connected and look in on folks, even if you can't do it personally. And phone numbers, the in IMACA, their number is 760-279-4350. The Emergency Management Center main number, if you're looking for support, would be 760-932-5650, and I'll let Frank decide whether or not he has to use one of those Men in Black things to make you forget that I handed that number out. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it.
Thank you, CAO Lawton. I believe Frank wanted to add something. Is that true, Frank?
Yeah, real quick. I should have linked it in earlier when you were talking about how we're organized. The three zones that were addressed earlier by Brian were really set up around community support needs throughout the county. And your own chief, Mike Curdy, who's I see is on the call, heads up what we're calling the north and central parts of Mono County. Once we set up around the community support side, which Kathy Peterson is heading up, covers a wide range, very impressive range of services, various types of social service outreach, as Robin mentioned, behavioral health, also food distribution, support with all kinds of items. We realized that was also a good way to organize emergency response. And so with Chief McCrassick and the other fire chiefs in Mono County, there's 11 fire districts, they decided to run combined operations in those three areas that would make it more efficient for us to handle a patient surge if that were to happen. So I just wanted to tip my hat there to Chief Curdy. Thanks for taking care of things up north. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief Freeval. I would now like to ask Garrett Hilgard from Public Works to give a brief.
Before Garrett gets started, I want to make sure everybody knows that questions can be directed to our sheriff. She's here to answer questions, and Chief Curdy is also here to answer questions, as well as all the other panelists that we talked about earlier. So we're going to just get a brief update from Garrett on Public Works, the road projects up in Antelope Valley.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Garrett Heigard with Public Works. I'm the county engineer, and yeah, we do have good news for you. The East Side Lane Phase 1 road construction project is going to start around the end of the month, sometime the week of April 27th, and then it will continue for approximately 4 weeks. And what it will do is rehabilitate East Side Lane from Awful Road north to Cunningham Lane. And as you know, the project's been in the works for a while, but it's now able to get underway. And we're not sure that there will be any impacts related to COVID-19. There is some potential that the supply chains could be impacted, but right now we don't think so. But of course, all of the contractors and all of the workers involved with the project will be taking all of the necessary precautions and practicing social distancing while on the job. In addition to that, we also are working on a phase 2 of the East Side Lane project. It was programmed in the last STIP cycle, that's the State Transportation Improvement Program cycle. And, but it is still several years out. We're looking at fiscal year 2023. And so anyway, we're making progress. There was only one project programmed in that STIP cycle, and we put all $3.7 million toward that phase 2 project in the Antelope Valley. We're also working on several other maintenance projects in the Antelope Valley. And we're actually also looking at some bridge work in the Antelope Valley on Cunningham Lane Bridge and also Larson Lane Bridge. And if you're interested in that, you can get more information by tuning in next Tuesday. We will be giving a presentation to the Board of Supervisors on bridges. And in a few weeks, May 5th, we'll be giving an update on the 5-year road capital improvement program. So
Garrett, can you confirm that the same group of, or the same contractor that did the excellent work last season around the senior center is going to be the same contractors that are coming to do the work on East Side Lane?
That's correct. Qualcomm Contractors is doing the work. and also longtime county employee and local there, Phil Touchstone, is going to be doing regular inspection work for us. And so notices, if they haven't been received by everybody will be received shortly, and we'll really do our best to make sure everyone is inconvenienced as little as possible. The traffic will be open with traffic control through the construction site, but you know, if you have a choice during construction, we would appreciate it if you could you know, drive around and just give us about a month, and it will be improved, definitely.
Thank you, Garrett. I just wanted to, there's been kind of a common theme in some of the questions that have been coming before we get to the next step. So that the HIPAA requirements that Public Health Brian Wheeler talked about require that the reporting out of a case has to occur within the three regions, either one of the three regions. That is the level of detail that is being provided by Public Health based on HIPAA law. And that it has been reviewed by our county council. So any questions related to whether a central and north county case is in a specific area cannot be answered. So, and you can direct, if you prefer to direct any further comments or questions about that to our county administrator, Bob Lawton. He can follow up with more detailed information to provide you specific verbiage about the HIPAA and how it applies to Mono County. So with that said, I will turn it back to our team.
Thank you, Supervisor. We have one last briefing, and that would be an economic briefing. That would be Jeff Simpson and Debbie Bush. Are you guys on?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'll let Debbie go first. Go ahead, Debbie.
Well, I don't exactly know what you're asking me for here, but basically we have two businesses that are basically functional right now, or three businesses, both stores here in town, and one of the restaurants is serving to-go meals on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have really worked very hard to be safe, to sanitize. We sanitize once an hour, wear masks, wear gloves. We're trying to do our very best as well to be able to still provide the needs for this community. Everybody's been very wonderful in understanding that we had to put limitations on what you could take for certain items. But the glory of that is that you can still get paper or toilet paper and paper towels at my store. Although you may not be able to take as much as you want, you can still get it. We are working very hard to work with lots of new vendors to try and procure as much as we can for the community. We're still doing the curbside delivery and at-home delivery for people who are medically challenged and or at risk. We have probably 4 or 5 that we service on a regular basis. It's gone really well. I know that Jeff is trying to do his best to stay open at the barbecue so that there is a place to eat or to get food to take out on the weekends. And you know, we're all wanting this to end like everybody else and get back to normal, but I think for now we're doing the very best that we can.
Yeah, and Debbie, part of like the update too was a little report out from the Chamber of Commerce meeting the other night. Plans are proceeding to hold the September Jamboree, ATV Jamboree, UTV. So the Chamber is still actively meeting with virtual meetings and addressing other economic impacts and how to, how Antelope Valley envisions, reopening And also, I'll just add that the coffee store, Walker Coffee Company, plans to open tomorrow. So, and another thing that I know that gets talked about in a lot of meetings is if you're inclined to purchase gift certificates or other, ways to help prop up, the pack stations or businesses that just can't get going yet, please do that. And there will, I also want to talk about posted information, like paper information that people can read about what's going on, the latest updates. And I believe there's something posted at the store and at other locations where people tend to navigate through. So with that, unless Debbie wants to add something else about the chamber.
Well, I think the chamber is looking at trying to look at our longer term events and proceed as if they're going to take place. That's what we have to do right now. I'm working with Fish and Game to do the latest date that I can to procure the Derby permit for the How Big is Big tournament in July, which is a very big economic boost to this community. We still have to see where that's going to go and where fishing is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. We're still looking at, in fact, we're going to open registration for the Jamboree in September and hope that that can come to pass. I think at this point in time, we all just have to proceed as if we know this will end at some point in time, or at least be alleviated to some degree. And as far as communication, there is a bulletin board at the store. I do post the public health announcements there. I think that covers it.
Thank you. Jeff, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. As most of you know, I work for Mono County Economic Development. I'm happy to answer any questions around economic development, tourism, fisheries, or film related. As Chief Freevault mentioned, we are working in the economic branch of the EOC. A few key takeaways from that at this point is number one, if you're a business owner in Antelope Valley, to please apply for the EDIL, the Economic Injury Loan through the SBA, and the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Both of those are time sensitive and on a first come, first served basis. They're forgivable loans, AKA free money from the government if they're spent in the listed expenditures through that. If you need help with that, I'm happy to help you. We've also have a consultant on retainer that can walk you through all those forms and work with your bank confidentially. So please reach out if you need help from that. The other takeaway with that group is that we sent out a survey to all Mono County businesses. We'd love your feedback on the issues that you may be having. I know that the businesses up here are very unique and also more diversified than the rest of the county. We have a lot of ag, we have the military base up here. We also have a lot of interaction with Nevada with the state line and Topaz. So please fill that out. We'd love to get your opinion. We'd love to know what's going on with your business specifically and how we might be able to help you. The only other thing I will add is I do get a lot of questions regarding fishing and fish stocking on the West Walker. I know Supervisor Peters updated you on the actions that are being taken at the state level, but I did want to mention that the money that the county uses to stock throughout the county, we have $100,000 that we use to stock fish throughout Mono County. We'll be keeping that on hold until the all clear is given, and then most likely spending the majority of that within the first couple of weeks of opening to get anglers back on the West Walker River. Be happy to answer any other questions as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Debbie. Go ahead, Supervisor.
I'm going to hijack it again, Brian. Sorry. Brian
No
does a
worries.
really good job moderating, but I'm trying to angle this a little bit to the community, and the community's used to around this time of year getting a very sober reminder of fire season. So Chief Curdy usually gives that update at the RPAC meetings, which we cannot or have not had yet, and we will be having virtually. But did you want to add anything about fire season, Chief Curdy?
Things are starting to dry out. It's starting to warm up. We should be going into fire season in Southern California here probably in about 15 days. And we're probably about a month, 2 months from extreme fire season like we usually get here, but it is drying out. It's warming up, so things do burn. I hope people stay safe. There are a lot of people burning in the community right now, and they're doing it very well, and I appreciate that. We haven't been on any calls yet, so. Can you hear me? Okay, that's sorry.
You're fine.
My screen says my speaker's not working, so. And I just also wanted to let the people in the Valley know we did just today put 2 people on paid on call. So we have 2 people to respond for a faster response through the rest of this epidemic, just to help the community out. So.
Okay, well, we're going to get to the Q&A now. I mean, the meeting's scheduled for an hour. If there are continued questions or comments that need to come out a little bit past that, I think we're all wanting to make sure that everything gets addressed that we possibly can in this short amount of time. So Justin and Brian, you want to open up the Q&A?
Will do. Thank you, Supervisor. So I will go through these questions. I'm going to go from the first question submitted, and we're going to go in order. I will pare down some of the questions and also skip over those that have been addressed. And I ask that the panelists also include brief remarks in their comments so that we can get through as many of these as possible. First question, I see that there are lodging and RV parks with customers and assume that they are not short-term rentals. Are long-term rentals allowed?
Chief Riebold, are you able to address that?
Actually, I want to give Bob first shot at this one. I know that Wendy Sigamora has been working on some of the wording for specifically the RV parks.
All right, Bob?
Thank you, Frank. And that's correct, because we regard these as important parts of our housing for many people in the county. There are folks who rely on them for long-term occupancy as opposed to the kind of short-term transient travel that that has a tendency to more widely spread the virus. So she's been working with both our county counsel's office and the town and the EOC to come up with more permanent guidelines. But at the current time, if you do see folks who are appearing to be occupying space in violation of the order, I would invite you to send an email to COVID-19 violations at mono.ca.gov. mono.ca.gov. That's COVID-19 violations. And we will receive those and act accordingly upon them.
Thank you so much, Bob. Justin, next question.
How does the Fish and Game Commission's vote today grant the ability to delay, restrict, or suspend fishing season at the local county level impact Topaz Lake, which is already open for fishing season?
Ingrid, Sheriff Braun, are you able to address that?
Sure, I think that was already answered in that Topaz Lake is not part of the fishing regulations. I think Supervisor Peters answered that. So Topaz is a different category. It's half Nevada, half California. It's kind of a weird animal like Lake Tahoe is. So that does not, to my understanding, affect Topaz Lake, but the decision does affect the rest of Mono County for fishing.
Thank you, Sheriff. Justin, next question, please.
Is it possible that the county will reopen lodging before May 31st?
Chief, back to you.
One of the things that I know is very frustrating for people is everybody wants a date. They want to put an X on a calendar. And what we're trying to do is get people to understand that we have to have the conditions to do that. what I will tell you, I've got actually, it's good. I've got both groups here. I spent in time today with our economic recovery branch. Jeff was on that call. And then we also have a clinical branch that is helping us define the conditions under which we can do that. I know Brian was in attendance at that meeting as well this afternoon. The conditions under which we can move to what's called phase 2, we're using a playbook for a reopening strategy, a national strategy, which is a really strong document. It gives us a really good framework to work on. That the part where we begin the reopening, phase 2, is exactly what public health and the doctors from the hospital were working on today. I saw a lot of green areas in there. That was very promising, Brian. So I cannot tell you that that's going to happen. I can tell you that the fastest way that we get there, we hope to have, I'll let Bob kind of weigh in here a little bit, but I know that we are generally aiming at putting something before our elected officials in the very near future as a plan, and it needs to be a plan that people can look at and understand in the community. So you'll know how far we are out from meeting those conditions, but it has to be condition driven and not date driven. I know that's frustrating, but it's the way this works.
Thank you, Frank. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, and thanks, Brian. It's important for folks to remember that there will come a day in the near future when the board receives this plan. And the day we receive this plan, or the day the board receives this plan, is not necessarily the day it goes into effect. I can't stress enough, there's no calendar for this. These are medical questions. Everybody is, I think, familiar by now with the quote-unquote curve. And what happens here and what happens elsewhere in the state is going to depend on where those regions are on the curve. I can't imagine any likelihood of any area of the state getting ahead of the governor. And in many cases, what's already been said is it will be when we've reached a certain point medically, or when the governor lifts the stay-at-home order, whichever is later. And remember that, it's whichever is later. But we are going to continue informing the public on a daily basis about how the conditions are, about how far along we have gotten. And I do look forward to being able to bring that plan to the board and to be able to explain it more fully and have the public receive that, as well as our elected officials.
Thank you, CAO Lawton. Justin, next question, please.
Great. So we can, we'll get through 2 with this one. Do you know how the positive case in the North Central County contracted the virus, and what is being done to make sure all the people this person has come into contact with are being notified and or quarantined?
So I can't really elaborate on how this person may or may not have contracted the virus, but I can speak to the contact tracing. So when we get a case, and this goes for all cases, so I'll just speak in a generalization, we immediately will reach out to that individual and through a series of interview questions, determine who they've been close to, who they've been around, whether it's family, whether it's work. We ask under normal situations where you might go to hang out. So if it's a tavern or something like that, we would be, looking into that as well. In most cases now, since most businesses are closed or operating on a curbside or takeout service, that's not as big a focus. But immediate family members, and basically we kind of go out in a circle around that case. So it would be family members, where they live, where they work, and any other person that they can identify that they think they may have exposed.
Thank you. Does the county have enough masks to pass out to the valley?
Is Chris McCresson on the line?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, we are working right now to deliver face coverings in the North County. I just dropped some off in Bridgeport today. We're starting with essential workers and then at-risk or high-risk patients, working on that first. And then we will be going on from there as face coverings become available to make sure that everybody has one that needs one. And we also encourage grassroots efforts. You know, if people are interested in the community to, you know, get put their sewing talents to work and to create some masks also, we also encourage that too. But we do have masks and we will be getting them out to the community.
Thank you, Chris. Next question, please.
What about evictions in Mono County? I have read the governor's orders and Mono County's orders. What is actually happening? If someone is damaging property, can you still do an unlawful detainer?
Sheriff Braun, are you able to address that question?
I am. So currently we are not doing evictions per the governor's order in Mono County for non-payment of rent. So if you're unable to pay your rent due to whatever reason, but primarily because of laid off due to the COVID virus or the slowdowns or whatever, we are not doing evictions for that. Now, if it was an eviction for a different purpose, for a different reason, for damaging the property or something like that, it's something that we could certainly look at and consider. You'd have to go through the court process, and that would still be difficult as the courts are pretty much shut down other than for emergency procedures. So that would be difficult, but I don't think that's out of the question. But we are not doing evictions for non-payment of rent, consistent with the governor's order.
Thank you, Sheriff Braun. Next question, please.
I believe this one Jeff would like to cover is if the opening of fishing season is postponed, how does that affect the West Walker that is already open with catch and release?
That's a great question, and we'll have to wait for further direction from the state on how that will work. But as the regulation reads right now, the year-round fishing or the winter catch and release only, artificial flies and lures only regulation would expire the last Friday in April. And starting the last Saturday in April, it would transition into the regular fishing season in Mono County, which is due to be postponed. So again, we'll wait for further direction from the state. We'll make sure we communicate that clearly to the community.
Thank you, Jeff. Next question, please.
Where can or how can someone request to schedule a well check for a citizen?
Chris, do you want to address that again?
If you have someone in the community that you believe needs particular attention, you can contact the EOC and we can set up and arrange that visit. We've have special crews that we've put in place as part of this emergency that can definitely go out and make contact and assist the patients in a very safe, they'll be wearing PPE and in a very safe manner. So contacting the EOC would be your best bet.
Thank you, Chris. Kathy Peterson, would you like to speak to that too?
Brian, let me add to that, the 211 number that's available has all of those resources available to you. When you dial 211, it's meant to provide resources to the nurse hotline or through to behavioral health, to social services. So that's always available. That's 24 hours a day.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Hi, this is Kathy Peterson. I will chime in on that and say that if somebody is concerned of elder or child abuse or neglect, they can also call our hotline number. So they can contact social services, they can call our hotline number, they can call Mono County Sheriff's Office. The EOC is not open 24 hours, so if it's after hours, I would suggest they call Sheriff's Office, or if it's after hours, call Sheriff's Office. That's the quickest thing to do.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Justin, next question.
This one has been, I believe, addressed, but we'll bring it up once more. The governor is, if the governor leaves it up to the county whether to open up, what would the county do?
That would really depend upon our situation. That's a situational question. If we are having a large number of cases still coming in, you know, we might be a little stricter than the governor. But that would kind of be a case-by-case basis.
Great, thanks, Brian. That's the end of the questions so far.
So let me just, first of all, again, thank everybody for all of their effort to get to where we are today. Is because of all of you, because of what you're doing in your community, in all of the communities, that we're not coming here tonight reporting 5 more cases, and we're, I mean, the curve, we're at a place where we were hoping to be medically, and we need to continue that. So it's not over. Don't the false kind of sense of, you know, well, you know, we're not getting new cases right now. It seems like everything's okay to sort of start coming back, you know, or slowly coming back. We're under a emergency order by the health officer, Dr. Tom Boo, and this gets evaluated, as Chief Freefault said, every single day. Like, where are we at? What is the capacity of the medical resources in our sort of, and I know I'm going to use this a little wrong, but sort of the sphere of medical availability to Mono County, whether you're in Benton or whether you're in Topaz. You know, where would you go if you had an emergency, whether it was COVID related or not, because we still want to be able to take care of those people that are having cardiac problems, broken legs, whatever it is. And if we were to get to a point where we couldn't send somebody as they typically are sent to Renown by fixed wing aircraft out of Mammoth, and then you know, that creates the domino effect of, okay, now we have to care for that person who might need a ventilator in Mammoth, that we have a limited amount of resources, which, by the way, they've worked very, very hard at acquiring more and growing capacity to prepare for these scenarios. But we're moving in the right direction, and it's really due to all of you who recognize that, you know, social distancing, this sort of new way of going about your essential business is working. And I just want to remind everyone that, you know, and I've seen it myself, because, you know, all of us have to go get supplies. We need to go up to Gardnerville. And I remember a couple of weeks ago going in, or 3 weeks ago, going into Walmart and seeing families shopping together and just lingering and having chats. Now it's people are on a sort of a mission. You go up there, you prepare yourself with a mask, PPE, gloves, you get in, you get out. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to continue to do with a purpose. Like, that is our purpose right now. And if we keep doing that, then it gives us that opportunity as a community, as a county, and as a region, because this really is a regional kind of a regional situation when it comes to the seasonality of our businesses. And so we will get there. And it's I believe we're closer to getting there than the distance we've traveled in this situation. And I just want to thank you guys all for this opportunity to have this type of meeting. I'm hoping that we can get back to having our RPAC meeting virtually, but that would be the same opportunity for everybody to be part of the public comment. We've seen that there's a huge increase in participation in meetings because you can do it from home. So, you know, I can't promise that we'll be able to put together this, you know, talented team of resources for another community meeting like this, but there is every Thursday night community meeting that is held out of, well, now it's held, everyone's in their own location, you know, sheltering in place, and participate in those, like join into those, just put it on your calendar, 5:30 Thursday nights. And we will continue to bring as much current information to everybody daily as is legally possible and humanly possible. And I can tell you, we've added very little capacity to our county staff. So we have some resources, and one I want to recognize for the second night in a row, Justin Caparuso has come in to help support our PIO. Cassandra Montez has come in to just dive right in. I think she came in for a totally different purpose than she's now providing for the county. But it's this type of, just, hey, we got to get this done. Everybody's working, tirelessly. And it's as hard a job that you have to stay home and keep this distancing as it is for all of us that are having to do these meetings and create policy, look at economic recovery. And we don't want anyone to get sick. That's the number one purpose of what we're all doing, to have everybody come out the other side of this in Mono County and our families, wherever they are, that hopefully they're staying home, and we keep everybody safe, because the people in Mono County love Mono County. They love being here. We love to welcome our visitors to come here and recreate, and we want to see that happen as soon as possible. There's nobody that I have talked to, including the hospital or briefings or the medical professionals, that are saying, let's just keep this going until, forever, or let's, the purpose is not that. The purpose is, and I heard it probably in the last 24 hours in 3 or 4 different platforms from Chief Freefault, that, look, we need to be ready. And the goal is for Mono County to be as ready as possible when the state is ready to start offering, more movement, more of it, more than essential travel. So that's what Mono County is trying to line up with. And I believe that with the effort we're putting forth, we can be successful at it. But we need all of you, every single person, to participate in that. So thank your essential workers. Just get in your mind that PPE is going to be part of our daily conversation. And yes, I know Chief McCrassick is working to get masks out. People are sewing. I would like, in the days to come, in the week to come, start trying to figure out how you can find those resources. Who has that ability to sew? How are we going to get them out to people? Because I think that's what's going to, it's sort of a, it's becoming like in LA, they're requiring it, but it's becoming a way to make people feel like, hey, if that, at least when I look at somebody and they're going in the post office and they're wearing a mask, I'm thinking, what, that person's got it. Like they're doing their part just in that minute and a half that they're going into the post office. So I don't need to keep going on. I don't see any more questions that have come in. So
Supervisor Peters, can I ask if Chief Curdy could address the AVIS system? I see that it's come up in questions a couple times.
Oh yeah. AVIS system, Chief Curdy, is it working, your microphone and everything? Chief?
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear us. Okay.
AVIS is our information system. We went through the PIO and put a message out there. It should be on it. And if there's anything updated you want that EOC wants us to put on it, we can. But we're making sure that we go through the EOC and everything to get the information correctly out to the people. We don't want to misinform anybody. So it's available. It's 1630, I think it is, unless I can't remember the exact.
It's an AM radio station.
Pardon?
AM radio station. And
radio station, yes.
Yeah, and it's operated by a member of CERT.
Yes.
Community Emergency Response Team, which is also doing an awesome job of being available to meet the community needs as they would arise or should arise. And they are trained, and they're also, demographic is not the exact demographic that you want to have interacting with people, but they are prepared to answer the call. If the call comes, they're there and they're ready. as is our sheriff's department and other first responders, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes, it's 16:10 a.m. Sorry, I had that wrong. I was informed that it's 16:10 a.m.
16:10. So you can tune into that in the Antelope Valley. So that's not something that you would pick up in other areas, I don't think.
No.
Anybody else have anything to add on the panel?
Well, I'd just like to add one thing. One thing that I see in my store each and every day is the isolation is very difficult, especially for elderly people that don't perhaps have family here, or even mothers that are trying to educate their children or whatever. We're social animals, and it's really important, and I've tried to do it myself, and I encourage everybody to do it. Reach out to 2 or 3 people a day. Pick up the phone, give them a call, just say, how are you doing? You know, message them, email them, whatever. But it's really important that people feel like they're still connected, that they still have that sense of community, that people still care about them. I know Robin would probably concur with this, but it takes such little effort to make 1 or 2 phone calls a day and just say, how are you doing? Is there anything you need? You know, how are the kids? Something light, something, you know, just that is important to all of us, and allow people to continue to feel connected, even though we can't do it with social distancing.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, and with that, I'm just going to end it with this meeting has been recorded and is going to be available on the website, the COVID link on the Mono County website. And I think it's a YouTube version, and you can share that link with anybody that you think would benefit from seeing what we discussed tonight. And please go visit the Mono County COVID site. It changes and is updated daily. Sometimes it's a little hard to navigate because a lot of people are putting a lot of different information, but it's getting reorganized and more user-friendly, and it just has a lot of information. And I appreciate all of the effort that went into this meeting, and we will see you soon.
Everyone be well.